Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency that enables instant payments to anyone, anywhere in the world. Bitcoin uses peer-to-peer technology to operate with no central authority. Transaction management and money issuance are carried out collectively by the network. The original Bitcoin software by Satoshi Nakamoto was released under the MIT license. Most client software, derived or from scratch, also use open-source licensing. Bitcoin is the first successful implementation of a distributed cryptocurrency, described in part in 1998 by Wei Dai on the Cypherpunks mailing list. Building upon the notion that money is any object, or any sort of record, accepted as payment for goods and services and repayment of debts in a given country or socio-economic context, Bitcoin is designed around the idea of using cryptography to control the creation and transfer of money, rather than relying on central authorities. Bitcoins have all the desirable properties of a money-like good. They are portable, durable, divisible, recognizable, fungible, scarce and difficult to counterfeit. Bitcoin (BTC) is a consensus network that enables a new payment system and a completely digital currency. Powered by its users, it is a peer-to-peer payment network that requires no central authority to operate. On October 31, 2008, an individual or group of individuals operating under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto published the Bitcoin whitepaper and described it as a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, which would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Bitcoin uses peer-to-peer technology to operate with no central authority or banks. Managing transactions and the issuing of bitcoins is carried out collectively by the network. Bitcoin is open source, its design is public, nobody owns or controls Bitcoin and everyone can take part. Through many of its unique properties, Bitcoin allows exciting uses that could not be covered by any previous payment system. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer currency. Peer-to-peer means that no central authority issues new money or tracks transactions. These tasks are managed collectively by the network. How does Bitcoin work? Bitcoin uses public key cryptography, peer-to-peer networking, and proof of work to process and verify payments. Bitcoins are sent, or signed over, from one address to another, with each user potentially having many addresses. Each payment transaction is broadcast to the network and included in the blockchain so that the included bitcoins cannot be spent twice. After an hour or two, each transaction is locked in time by the massive amount of processing power that continues to extend the blockchain. Using these techniques, Bitcoin provides a fast and extremely reliable payment network that anyone can use. Why Bitcoin? This is a question often surrounded by confusion, so here's a quick explanation. Bitcoin is P2P electronic cash that is valuable over legacy systems because of the monetary autonomy it brings to its users. Bitcoin seeks to address the root problem with conventional currency, all the trust that's required to make it work. Not that justified trust is a bad thing, but trust makes systems brittle, opaque, and costly to operate. Trust failures result in systemic collapses, trust curation creates inequality and monopoly lock-in, and naturally arising trust choke points can be abused to deny access to due process. Through the use of cryptographic proof, decentralized networks and open-source software, Bitcoin minimizes and replaces these trust costs. Bitcoin transactions are permissionless and borderless. The software can be installed by anybody worldwide. Do not require any ID to use, making it suitable for the unbanked, the privacy-conscious, computers or people in areas with underdeveloped financial infrastructure. A censorship-resistant. Nobody is able to block or freeze a transaction of any amount. Irreversible once settled, like cash. But consumer protection is still possible. Fast. Transactions are broadcasted in seconds and can become irreversible within an hour. Online and available 24 hours a day, 365 days per year. Bitcoin can also be a store of value. Some have said it is a Swiss bank account in your pocket. Cannot be printed or debased. Only 21 million bitcoins will ever exist. Have no storage costs. They take up no physical space regardless of amount. Are easy to protect and hide. Can be stored encrypted on a hard disk or paper backup. Are in your direct possession with no counterparty risk. If you keep the private key of a Bitcoin secret and the transaction has enough confirmations, then nobody can take them from you, no matter for what reason, no matter how good the excuse, no matter what. How does Bitcoin work for new user? The basics for a new user. As a new user, you can get started with Bitcoin without understanding the technical details. Once you've installed a Bitcoin wallet on your computer or mobile phone, it will generate your first Bitcoin address and you can create more whenever you need one. You can disclose your addresses to your friends so that they can pay you or vice versa. In fact, this is pretty similar to how email works, except that Bitcoin addresses should be used only once. Balances blockchain. The blockchain is a shared public ledger on which the entire Bitcoin network relies. All confirmed transactions are included in the blockchain. It allows Bitcoin wallets to calculate their spendable balance so that new transactions can be verified, thereby ensuring they're actually owned by the spender. The integrity and the chronological order of the blockchain are enforced with cryptography. Transactions, private keys. A transaction is a transfer of value between Bitcoin wallets that gets included in the blockchain. Bitcoin wallets keep a secret piece of data called a private key or seed, which is used to sign transactions, providing a mathematical proof that they have come from the owner of the wallet. The signature also prevents the transaction from being altered by anybody once it has been issued. All transactions are broadcast to the network and usually begin to be confirmed within 10 to 20 minutes, through a process called mining. Processing, mining. Mining is a distributed consensus system that is used to confirm pending transactions by including them in the blockchain. It enforces a chronological order in the blockchain, protects the neutrality of the network, and allows different computers to agree on the state of the system. To be confirmed, transactions must be packed in a block that fits very strict cryptographic rules that will be verified by the network. These rules prevent previous blocks from being modified because doing so would invalidate all the subsequent blocks. Mining also creates the equivalent of a competitive lottery that prevents any individual from easily adding new blocks consecutively to the blockchain. In this way, no group or individuals can control what is included in the blockchain or replace parts of the blockchain to roll back their own spends. Some important things you need to know about Bitcoin. If you're getting started with Bitcoin, there are a few things you should know. Bitcoin lets you exchange money and transact in a different way than you normally do. As such, you should take time to inform yourself before using Bitcoin for any serious transaction. Bitcoin should be treated with the same care as your regular wallet, or even more in some cases. Securing your wallet. Like in real life, your wallet must be secured. Bitcoin makes it possible to transfer value anywhere in a very easy way, and it allows you to be in control of your money. Such great features also come with great security concerns. At the same time, Bitcoin can provide very high levels of security if used correctly. Always remember that it is your responsibility to adopt good practices in order to protect your money. Read more about securing your wallet. Bitcoin price is volatile. The price of a Bitcoin can unpredictably increase or decrease over a short period of time due to its young economy, novel nature, and sometimes illiquid markets. Consequently, keeping your savings with Bitcoin is not recommended at this point. Bitcoin should be seen like a high-risk asset, and you should never store money that you cannot afford to lose with Bitcoin. If you receive payments with Bitcoin, many service providers can convert them to your local currency. Bitcoin payments are irreversible. A Bitcoin transaction cannot be reversed, it can only be refunded by the person receiving the funds. This means you should take care to do business with people and organizations you know and trust, or who have an established reputation. For their part, businesses need to keep track of the payment requests they are displaying to their customers. Bitcoin can detect typos and usually won't let you send money to an invalid address by mistake, but it's best to have controls in place for additional safety and redundancy. Additional services might exist in the future to provide more choice and protection for both businesses and consumers. Bitcoin is not anonymous. Some effort is required to protect your privacy with Bitcoin. All Bitcoin transactions are stored publicly and permanently on the network, which means anyone can see the balance and transactions of any Bitcoin address. However, the identity of the user behind an address remains unknown until information is revealed during a purchase or in other circumstances. This is one reason why Bitcoin addresses should only be used once. Always remember that it is your responsibility to adopt good practices in order to protect your privacy. Unconfirmed transactions aren't secure. Transactions don't start out as irreversible. Instead, they get a confirmation score that indicates how hard it is to reverse them. See table. Each confirmation takes between a few seconds and 90 minutes, with 10 minutes being the average. If the transaction pays too low a fee or is otherwise atypical, getting the first confirmation can take much longer. Bitcoin is still experimental. Bitcoin is an experimental new currency that is in active development. Each improvement makes Bitcoin more appealing but also reveals new challenges as Bitcoin adoption grows. During these growing pains you might encounter increased fees, slower confirmations, or even more severe issues. Be prepared for problems and consult a technical expert before making any major investments, but keep in mind that nobody can predict Bitcoin's future. Government taxes and regulations. Bitcoin is not an official currency. That said, most jurisdictions still require you to pay income, sales, payroll, and capital gains taxes on anything that has value, including Bitcoins. It is your responsibility to ensure that you adhere to tax and other legal or regulatory mandates issued by your government and/or local municipalities. Bitcoin basics. Creation of coins. The creation of coins must be limited for the currency to have any value. New coins are slowly mined into existence by following a mutually agreed upon set of rules. A user mining Bitcoins is running a software program that searches for a solution to a very difficult math problem, the difficulty of which is precisely known. This difficulty is automatically adjusted on a predictable schedule so that the number of solutions found globally for a given unit of time is constant. The global system aims for 6 per hour. When a solution is found, the user may tell everyone of the existence of this newly found solution along with other information packaged together in what is called a block. The solution itself is a proof of work or POW. It is hard to find, but easy to verify. Blocks create 12.5 new Bitcoins at present, October 2016. This amount, known as the block reward, is an incentive for people to perform the computation work required for generating blocks. Roughly every 4 years, the number of Bitcoins that can be mined in a block reduces by 50%. Originally the block reward was 50 Bitcoins, it halved in November 2012, it then halved again in July 2016. Any block that is created by a malicious user that does not follow this rule, or any other rules, will be rejected by everyone else. In the end, no more than 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist. Because the block reward will decrease over the long term, miners will someday instead pay for their hardware and electricity costs by collecting transaction fees. The sender of money may voluntarily pay a small transaction fee which will be kept by whoever finds the next block. Paying this fee will encourage miners to include the transaction in a block more quickly. Sending payments. To guarantee that a third party, let's call her Eve, cannot spend other people's Bitcoins by creating transactions in their names, Bitcoin uses public key cryptography to make and verify digital signatures. In this system, each person, such as Alice or Bob, has one or more addresses each with an associated pair of public and private keys that they may hold in a wallet. Only the user with the private key can sign a transaction to give some of the Bitcoins to somebody else, but anyone can validate the signature using that user's public key. Preventing double spending. The following process does. This is the primary innovation behind Bitcoin. First, details about the transaction are sent and forwarded to all or as many other computers as possible. Second, a constantly growing chain of blocks that contains a record of all transactions is collectively maintained by all computers, each has a full copy. Third, To be accepted in the chain, transaction blocks must be valid and must include proof of work, one block generated by the network every 10 minutes. Fourth, blocks are chained in a way so that, if any one is modified, all following blocks will have to be recomputed. Fifth, when multiple valid continuations to this chain appear, only the longest such branch is accepted and it is then extended further. Anonymity. When it comes to the Bitcoin network itself, there are no accounts to set up, and no email addresses, usernames or passwords are required to hold or spend Bitcoins. Each balance is simply associated with an address and its public-private key pair. The money belongs to anyone who has the private key and can sign transactions with it. Moreover, those keys do not have to be registered anywhere in advance, as they are only used when required for a transaction. Transacting parties do not need to know each other's identity in the same way that a store owner does not know a cash-paying customer's name. A Bitcoin address mathematically corresponds to a public key and looks like this. 1 PHYRMDJ 22 MKBJ EVPB 3 MBN PVC KJ ZHT 89 Hz. Each person can have many such addresses, each with its own balance, which makes it very difficult to know which person owns what amount. Capitalization, nomenclature. Since Bitcoin is both a currency and a protocol, capitalization can be confusing. Accepted practice is to use Bitcoin singular with an uppercase letter B to label the protocol, software, and community, and Bitcoins with a lowercase b to label units of the currency. Where to see and explore. You can directly explore the system in action by visiting btc.com, biteasy.com, blockchain.info, blocker.io, Bitcoin Block Explorer or Bitcoin Block Explorer. The site shows you the latest blocks in the blockchain. The blockchain contains the agreed history of all transactions that took place in the system. Note how many blocks were generated in the last hour, which on average will be 6. Also notice the number of transactions and the total amount transferred in the last hour. Last time I checked it was about 64 and 15K. This should give you an indication of how active the system is. Next, navigate to one of these blocks. The block's hash begins with a run of zeros. This is what made creating the block so difficult. A hash that begins with many zeros is much more difficult to find than a hash with few or no zeros. The computer that generated this block had to try many nonce values also listed on the blocks page until it found one that generated this run of zeros. Next, see the line titled Previous Block. Each block contains the hash of the block that came before it. This is what forms the chain of blocks. Now take a look at all the transactions the block contains. The first transaction is the income earned by the computer that generated this block. It includes a fixed amount of coins created out of thin air and possibly a fee collected from other transactions in the same block. Drill down into any of the transactions and you will see how it is made up of one or more amounts coming in and out. Having more than one incoming and outgoing amount in a transaction enables the system to join and break amounts in any possible way, allowing for any fractional amount needed. Each incoming amount is a past transaction which you can also view from someone's address, and each outgoing amount is addressed to someone and will be part of a future transaction which you can also navigate down into if it has already taken place. Finally, you can follow any of the addresses' links and see what public information is available for them. To get an impression of the amount of activity on the Bitcoin network, you might like to visit the monitoring websites Bitcoin Monitor and Bitcoin Watch. The first shows a real-time visualization of events on the Bitcoin network, and the second lists general statistics on the amount and size of recent transactions. How many people use Bitcoin? This is quite a difficult question to answer accurately. One approach is to count how many Bitcoin clients connected to the network in the last 24 hours. We can do this because some clients transmit their addresses to the other members of the network periodically. In September 2011, this method suggested that there were about 60,000 users. In October 2014, according to CoinDesk report, there were more than 7.5 million Bitcoin wallets. In October 2016, according to blockchain.info user counts based on blockchain wallet, there are about 8.8 million registered Bitcoin users on its platform. Cointelegraph report. According to blockchain.info, from October 2016 till January 2018 the Bitcoin user base has almost tripled for a total of 22 million users. How to buy Bitcoin? There are several ways you can buy Bitcoin. First, use a Bitcoin exchange. Second, browse a P2P directory. Using an exchange based off of a peer-to-peer directory lets you search and browse through various sellers of Bitcoin. Sellers have reviews and feedback scores to help you choose. Third, use a Bitcoin ATM. Bitcoin ATMs work like a regular ATM, except they allow you to deposit and withdraw money so that you can buy and sell Bitcoin. Are you interested to invest in cryptocurrency, silver, and gold? Please visit the link below.